Ever been in a meeting and, had an idea but kind of held back? Or maybe saw something, a potential issue, but thought, better not say anything.
Yeah, that hesitation. It happens all the time.
That feeling, that reluctance, it often comes down to what we're really digging into today. Psychological safety, especially how critical it is in healthcare.
Exactly. And in this deep dive, we're going to get right into what that actually means, in a hospital or clinic setting.
Right.
We'll look at why it's such a game changer for improving care quality.
Okay.
What it looks like when it's there, and maybe more importantly, when it's not there.
Yeah, the signs.
And we'll give you some real examples and, crucially, some things you can actually do.
And we're basing this on some solid groundwork, right?
Yeah.
We've looked at info from places like Joint Commission International, JCI.
Yep, and NABH, the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers here in India.
Supremediq Consultancy, iSquad, the International Society for Quality in Healthcare.
And various articles, all talking about the same core idea.
So our mission today really is just to make this concept, psychological safety in healthcare, super clear.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to draw that straight line, show you how feeling safe to speak up directly impacts patient care, quality, safety, all of it.
Hopefully by the end, you'll have some practical things to think about for your own situation.
Definitely. Let's get started.
Okay, so psychological safety. It sounds maybe a bit academic.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty simple at its core. Amy Edmondson at Harvard nailed it.
What was her definition?
She called it the shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking.
Okay, interpersonal risk-taking. What does that mean day to day?
Well, put simply, it's asking yourself, can I speak up? Can I ask a question, maybe one I think is silly? Can I admit I made a mistake? Can I suggest a different way of doing things?
Without getting shot down.
Exactly. Without being punished or embarrassed or made to feel stupid. That's the core of it.
And you said it's not just like a nice thing to have in healthcare.
Oh, absolutely not. It's foundational, especially for quality improvement. If people are scared, they don't share the very information you need to make things better. It just chokes off progress.
Okay, let's break that down. How does this feeling of safety or, the lack of it really hit quality improvement? Let's start with incident reporting.
Right. This is a big one. It's pretty direct, cause and effect.
How so?
Well, if you work somewhere and you think reporting an error or even a near miss is going to lead to blame or punishment.
You just won't report.
You won't.
Oh.
You'll downplay it. So the organization doesn't get the real data.
And without that data,
you're flying blind. You can't see patterns. You don't know what the underlying problems really are. So how can you fix them?
Right. No safety means no reporting, means no real intelligence for improvement.
Precisely.
Okay, what about something like PDSA cycles? Plano Study Act, that whole iterative improvement thing.
Yeah, that relies heavily on psychological safety because, think about it. The whole point is to try things.
Experiment a little.
Exactly. And experiments, well, they don't always work out first time, do they?
No, that's kind of the point of testing.
So if people are worried, they'll get criticized or, penalized if their idea doesn't immediately succeed.
They won't suggest the idea in the first place.
Or they'll only suggest super safe, tiny changes. You stifle innovation. You kill the experimentation that PDSA cycles need to work. You need that safe space to try, maybe fail, learn, and then adjust.
Makes sense. And then the absolute core patient safety. The connection there must be incredibly strong.
Undeniable. Think about those really critical learning moments, like a root cause analysis after something serious happened.
Yeah.
Or even just the daily safety huddle, or debriefing after a complex procedure.
Okay.
All of those absolutely depend, on people being open and honest.
Right. Saying what really happened, what they saw, what they were thinking.
Exactly. If staff are holding back, if they're scared to say, actually, I think we could have done this differently, or I was worried about X, then you don't get the full picture.
And you can't identify the real risks.
You can't. You miss crucial insights that could prevent the next error. Honesty is key, and honesty needs safety.
Okay, so we've got incident reporting, PDSA cycles, direct patient safety moments. What about the people side? Like staff feeling okay at work?
Yeah, that's huge too. Staff retention and engagement, it's all linked.
How does psychological safety play into that?
Well, think about it. If you work in a place where you feel heard, where your opinion matters, where you feel safe being yourself and contributing.
It's just a better place to work.
It is. It's more supportive, more meaningful. It fights burnout. People feel valued.
And people who feel valued are more likely to stick around.
Absolutely. They're more engaged, more satisfied, so you see better retention rates. It's a positive feedback loop. Safety leads to better engagement, which reinforces a positive environment.
So let's flip it. What are the warning signs? If psychological safety is low, what would you actually see or feel in a hospital or a team?
With some classic signs. Silence is a big one. Meetings where important topics are discussed, but nobody really speaks up, especially junior staff.
Mm-hmm. Just nods.
Yeah. Or that fear of reporting we talked about. You just know things aren't being reported.
Okay.
You might see staff just seeming disengaged,
Yeah.
not really bringing energy or ideas, going through the motions.
Right.
A blame culture is a massive red flag. Something goes wrong, and the first question is, whose fault is it? Not what happened and how can we prevent it.
That sounds stressful.
It is. And finally, just a lack of innovation. Nobody suggests new things. Resistance to change. That often signals fear.
Okay, so that's the negative side. What about the positive? What does it look like when a place has high psychological safety?
Oh, it feels different. It really does. You'll see people openly talking about problems, reporting issues without fear.
Okay.
Feedback flows easily, not just top down, but sideways, upwards. People feel comfortable giving and receiving constructive feedback. Mistakes. This is key. Mistakes are genuinely treated as learning opportunities, not something to be hidden or punished.
So less blame, more learning.
Exactly. And you see real collaboration, teams working together effectively, people respecting each other, regardless of their role or rank, a sense of shared purpose.
It's good to talk about the signs, but do you have maybe a concrete example, like where this has actually been put into practice?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good one from a private hospital in Bangalore.
Oh, yeah. What did they do?
In their ICU, they did something quite simple, actually. They put up a daily learning board.
A learning board.
Yeah. Anyone on the team, doctors, nurses, technicians, anyone could anonymously write down a lesson learned from the day or even a mistake that was made. Anonymously was key.
Okay, anonymous posts about lessons or mistakes. And what happened? What were the results?
Pretty amazing, actually. Within about 6 months, the number of incidents, reported things captured on this board and formally tripled.
Tripled.
Yeah. But more than just the number, the whole culture started to shift. People began talking about near misses, not as something to hide, but as, like, free lessons. Wow, we caught that. Let's figure out how to make sure it never happens.
So it created that safe space and that changed behavior.
Exactly. A simple, low-cost idea, but it kick-started a bigger cultural change.
That's really powerful. Now, you mentioned healthcare has unique challenges. We heard from Dr. Priya Jasing, a clinical psychologist.
Yes, her insights are really helpful here. She points out why healthcare can be a particularly tough environment for psychological safety.
What are those specific challenges?
Well, first, it's obviously high stakes, right? Errors can have really serious consequences. That naturally creates pressure.
Sure.
Then there's the hierarchy. Healthcare is often very hierarchical.
Yeah.
The consultant, the registrar, the junior doctor, the nurse.
Right. Clear levels.
And that structure can sometimes discourage junior staff from questioning seniors, even if they see something concerning. There could be this sort of don't question the expert culture.
I can see that.
And the environment itself, it's often fast-paced, high pressure. There isn't always time or perceived time for open discussion or reflection.
So high stakes, hierarchy, pressure.
Yeah.
It creates barriers.
It really can. It can foster that don't rock the boat, don't challenge the senior mentality, which is the opposite of psychological safety.
So given those challenges, what advice did Dr. Jasing have for leaders, people wanting to actually build this safety?
She had some really practical, actionable things. First, leaders need to model vulnerability.
Meaning,
Admit when you don't know something, admit when you made a mistake. If the leader does it, it signals that it's okay for others too.
sets the tone.
Exactly. Second, actively reward speaking up. Don't just tolerate it, celebrate it. Publicly thank people who raise difficult issues, even if it's uncomfortable news. Show it's valued.
Okay. What else?
Flatten hierarchy, at least in specific situations. Like in huddles or debriefs, maybe ask the most junior person to speak first. Give them the floor before the seniors weigh in.
Oh, interesting. So it reverses the usual flow.
It signals everyone's voice matters. And finally, when debriefing incidents, really focus on the process, the system. What sequence of events led to this, not who is to blame.
System focus, not person focus.
Right.
And didn't she have a kind of quick check for leaders, a question they should ask themselves?
Yes, it was great. She said leaders should ask themselves, When was the last time someone on my team disagreed with me and I genuinely thanked them for it?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. If you can't remember or it hasn't happened recently, it's probably a sign that people don't feel safe enough to challenge you, a real indicator you need to work on creating that safety.
That's a really sharp point for self-reflection. Okay, so let's bring it back to actionable steps. For listeners, people working in healthcare right now, what are maybe, say, 3 concrete things they could try?
Okay, 3 practical takeaways. First, open with permission.
How does that work?
At the start of meetings, huddles, whatever, just explicitly say something like, okay, everyone, all ideas are welcome here. There are no bad questions. We want to hear from you.
Just saying it out loud.
Yeah, and keep saying it. Repetition builds trust. It signals you mean it.
Okay, number 1, open with permission. What's number 2?
Number 2, turn mistakes into gold.
Like the learning board example.
Exactly. Create some system, formal or informal, to share learnings from both successes and failures, a lessons learned email, a regular agenda item.
The key being.
The key is framing it purely for learning and system improvement. No blame. Make it clear this is about getting better together.
Okay. And number 3,
Build feedback into the system. Don't wait for the annual appraisal.
make it more regular.
Yeah. Make giving and receiving constructive feedback a normal part of everyday work. Shift changes, case reviews, QI meetings. Build it in. Make it routine, not scary.
So permission, learning from mistakes, and regular feedback.
Got it.
Those 3 things can really start to shift the culture. And it's important to remember, this isn't just some separate culture thing, is it? It connects directly to the formal stuff, like accreditation.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply woven in. Think about organizations like JCI or NABH. Their whole focus is quality and patient safety.
Right.
You simply cannot meet their high standards without a foundation of psychological safety. How can you ensure quality if people are afraid to report problems?
It underpins everything.
It really does. JCI talks about enabling the highest standards. NABH sets benchmarks for progress. You need that open communication, that learning culture, which safety enables to achieve those goals.
And what about other bodies like ISQA or maybe consultancies?
Same story. ISOCA promotes quality improvement. Worldwide safety is key to that. Consultancies like Supremediq help with NABH accreditation. They know robust quality systems are essential, and those systems work best when people feel safe interacting with them.
I remember seeing something about JCI saying accreditation can be a team-building exercise.
Right. And think about what makes team building work: good communication, trust.
Psychological safety.
Exactly. It enhances that benefit, makes the whole process smoother and more meaningful.
And achieving reaccreditation, it improves risk management, patient safety efforts.
Which, again, rely on people feeling safe to speak up about risks. JCI's goal of high reliability and zero harm. That fundamentally requires a culture where staff feel empowered to report anything that concerns them. It all connects.
Okay, one last crucial angle, the patients. Does psychological safety affect them too?
Hugely important point. Yes, absolutely. It's not just about staff feeling safe with each other.
How does it impact patients?
Well, if a patient feels psychologically safe with their care team,
They feel comfortable asking questions, sharing worries.
precisely, they're more likely to admit they don't understand the treatment plan, or mention a side effect they're experiencing, or voice a concern they have.
Which leads to?
Better communication, better understanding, probably better adherence to treatment because they're actually part of the conversation, higher satisfaction, and potentially better health outcomes. Feeling safe empowers patients too.
So wrapping this up then, it seems really clear that psychological safety isn't just, a soft skill or a nice to have.
No, it's really a strategic imperative. If
Yeah.
you're serious about quality improvement, patient safety, innovation in healthcare, you have to be serious about psychological safety.
So we'd encourage you listening to think beyond just the QI tools or the process charts.
Yeah, think about the culture. How safe do people really feel? Your colleagues, your patients. How safe do they feel sharing what's on their mind, raising concerns, admitting mistakes?
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. How might things change maybe in unexpected ways if you intentionally decided to cultivate more psychological safety right where you are in your own team or department? What breakthroughs in care or just in how people feel at work might happen?